get it. The OGs always told me what I start, I gotta finish. So I push it to the limit, so I can be the greatest. So I can look my family in their eyes and say we made it. Don't let life hand you nothing, you just gotta go take it. Always keep it 100, don't ever let me catch you faking. Keep a close eye on your circle.
Hey, y'all, welcome to the Post Prison Podcast. I'm your guy, businessman and entrepreneur, Darryl Riley. Absent today is my ride or die sister, Miss Cynthia Brady. We had some scheduling conflicts. She's really sad that she couldn't be here. I am too, because I know the guest that I have on today, her and this person are just alike. And in that same vein, we want to welcome former Seattle Police Chief, Miss Carmen Best. How are you, lady?
I'm doing fine, Darryl. It is so good to see you. I haven't had a chance to connect since Juneteenth, and before that, up from slavery. But always a pleasure to see you. Sporting your Chicago Bulls. Is that Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, I gotta keep, it's always in me. You know what I'm saying? They want me to adopt Bremerton and the Seahawks and all that, but I just can't do it.
We'll
But
convert you.
yeah, but for those that watch me that don't know you, you've become a powerful and impactful and influential person in the Black community in the Seattle area particularly, and now in the Bremerton area as well. So I'd like to read your bio here that I have with me for everybody who don't know you. As the first African American woman to hold the top policing job in Seattle, Washington, Chief Carmen Best served with the Seattle Police Department for 28 years. In 2018, Best was promoted to Chief of Police, a job she called a dream of a lifetime, managing approximately 2,000 sworn and civilian employees. Best quickly began efforts to diversify the police force, which had long been less diverse than the city, recruiting more than 40 new officers of color. As communities throughout America grapple with how to better serve and protect their citizens while addressing racism and revamping police procedures, Chief Best was seen as a champion and leader of reforms. She regularly met with community leaders and achieved a decreased major crime rate in 2019. In the same year, Chief Best received a Vision from Mountaintop Award for Urban Impact for her commitment to justice and community. Among her many accomplishments as Chief of Police was her creation of a collaborative police bureau, which encourages community partnerships, creating the first in the nation's first responder COVID-19 on-site testing and record-breaking women and diversity hiring and recruitment. In 2020, she announced her resignation as a result of the city's decision to downsize the police department by almost 100 officers, and she officially left office in 2020. Welcome again, Ms. Best. Excited to talk to you. It's really an honor and a privilege. I joked earlier that I'm not MSNBC. I'm really honored to know you. A lot of my old friends used to have names like Ray, Pookie, and Big Mike, and my new friends got names like Senator and Judge and former Chief. So, I appreciate you and I respect you. I want to give a shout out real quick to somebody you introduced me to. I know who has been influential in your life. And, when I think about conversations that I had with her, where you concerned, she just pricked my heart with how proud she is of you. And I got a couple of guys like that in my life. And I just want to give her a shout out to Miss Pat,
Yeah.
who was one of your first training sergeants, I think it was.
Yeah, she was my first supervisor on the Seattle Police Department. If you can imagine, there weren't very many Black women, so the fact that I got assigned to her squad was pretty cool. Yeah, she's good people, Darryl, and as you know, I should say, we all have to work and lean on other people, work with and lean on other people for our successes often, and she's always been there for me. Really, truly a great mentor and sponsor.
Yeah, I like Miss Pat a lot. Well, my first question to you, after all these years in policing, right? What is life like now with the new position? Because you've moved on to greater baller things now, I should say. What's life like for you now?
It's really interesting. I have to tell you, I spent, as you said, almost 30 years in policing. So at that time, almost half of my life as a police officer and sergeant, lieutenant, supervisor, and ultimately the police chief. And so because of circumstances, I felt it was important to walk away when I did in 2020 after the post George Floyd, demonstrations and defund the police and other things that were happening. But I am a public servant at heart. So I currently work for a very large technology company, love doing global security and those things. It's very important. But, I often think about how I can stay committed to doing public service. So for that reason, I work on a lot of boards, United Way King County and as well as United Negro College Fund, Young Women's Christian Association, St. Jude, Rise Academy, and others, because I just want to give back, right? And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and so that's just in me, just like I think it's in you to want to, you want to make a difference and have an
Yeah.
impact, and so we have to find an avenue to do that. So that's why, I tend to do a lot of volunteerism. So I just care very much about people.
So, all right, is that self-care?
It's not really, it's technically, I guess, because it is
Yeah.
about me
Okay.
doing what I need to do for me. But that's a piece of it, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. Because I could connect. For me, it's about self-care, if you will, and a lot of times it's more
Yeah.
stressful when I'm sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
Well, so you talked about still wanting to be involved in some type of service, and even though no longer involved in law enforcement in particular, do you have a glimpse on like the mental health pressures of law enforcement today? Because it's
Sure,
been
Darryl.
compounded.
Yeah, it has been compounded when in recent times for sure. Well, I will say this, although I'm not employed as a law enforcement official by any means, I still do a lot of work. As you know, I do the law enforcement analyst work for MSNBC. I still sit on committees with the International Association of Chiefs of Police and stay very in tune and up to speed with what's happening in current law enforcement issues. I actually am teaching a class at Seattle University on contemporary issues in law enforcement. So I stay pretty well abreast. I mean, I spent almost 3 decades, so what's happening in the field. And one of the critical things that law enforcement as a whole is looking at is really the mental health and mental wellness is what they're calling it of officers. How we keep people both physically and mentally sound so that they're making good decisions and keeping themselves healthy at the workplace. And it's just that's a recent phenomenon, at least within my tenure, is when they really started paying attention to it. They had a number of officer suicides that were occurring, and really started focusing on what's happening in the field. And I think I'm no expert here, no psychologist, but my belief is that a lot of it was based on all the issues that were being raised around law enforcement, who was in the job, why, the brutality issues, the racism issues, that coupled with just the daily stress of doing the work every single day.
Yeah.
I think it really took its toll on a lot of folks, and I'm not taking away from all of the challenges around reform and other things, but cops are just people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at that too.
Well, I kind of what brought me to that question is, and I kind of mentioned this book a lot because it changed my life. Reading the book called My Grandmother's Hands, and it talks about how trauma starts in the body.
Mhm.
And whenever I experience situations with law enforcement, I watch their body, because they're usually triggered by something that they perceive, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
And it led me to that mental health aspect of it. They see so much trauma, they see so much danger and all of that. And I don't want to be the community member who always want to pound on law enforcement for the mistakes. I also want to be the one to understand, have some empathy for what they deal with, even though I was on the other side. Speaking of on that same vein, you did say, this is a new phenomenon. But in your book, you talked about a moment where you had to sit with your thoughts while the world was pressuring you. that sounds like a huge, listen, I get stressed out when my payroll due.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So, and it was really a pressure cooker
yeah.
around here. I just happen to live here, so I had a firsthand view of it, and to know you now and then to read that, uh, can you revisit that? And how healthy was your mental state? I mean, you weren't crazy or nothing, but you know,
Well,
but
I hope not anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, listen, it was a lot of pressure. I wrote a book, as you know, Black and Blue Leadership Lessons on Breaking Barriers and Racial Reconciliation. And I talk a lot about the experiences that I've had really through a lifetime, but I make a lot of focus on that last 9 months when we had mass shooting, pandemic, George Floyd, CHOP, Chaz, Capitol Hill protests, defund the police, and all those other things. And so it was a pretty stressful time. I mean, I want to say I was perfect at taking care of my health, but probably not, to be
yeah,
frank. I think I did what I could under the circumstances. Sometimes, though, when you take on, and you have to know when you take on a leadership position, that there are going to be challenges and that you're going to have to sort of lead from the front. So I fully
mhm,
recognize that that was an important time. It can't be prolonged, it can't be forever,
yeah,
but there are times that you just have to take on the challenges and no one else can really resolve it the way you can yourself, or that you have to yourself because you're the person in charge. So yeah, I spent a lot of time, focused on the mission at hand because it was so paramount, both professionally and personally. And I was the first African American woman chief, and we all know if you screw that up, there'll never be another one, right? They'll never see it again. So I had that extra pressure of, doing the best I could and making sure that it wasn't a fallacy, you know what I mean? So plenty of nights that I slept in my office and just, got up the next day and, to shower, put on a clean uniform and went right back at it for several weeks on end because it was needed at the time. But that wasn't a long-term thing. So I probably wasn't taking the best care. I was eating fast food and jumping up and
yeah.
for a short period. But then when I got the chance to sort of sit back and revisit, everything, that was my time to really focus on the self-care. And
Mhm.
when I was trying to make decisions in the middle of all the chaos and varying opinions and the criticism and support, all of it happening at once, you do have to sort of step back, you know, exhale and just think through what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the consequences, what are the outcomes, what are we trying to achieve, and focus on the mission. And that really is what I tried to do and not be distracted by all the noise.
Well, I never expected to know you from watching how you moved in those situations during that time. But, the fortunate part about knowing you now is to be able to see those thoughts and then to read it in the book. I want to thank you for the space you wrote the book from, that first person space, because uh, if it was me, if there was a next volume, I would change the name to Blackness in Blue, you know,
All right, that might be
because
the next op-ed or something.
because for me, the blackness came out. And I say that in all sincerity because I don't think if it weren't for a lot of these issues that we're talking about, we wouldn't be focusing on our wellness and our mental health and our self-care. For so long, we going to the doctor and getting therapy has been taboo, and now we're focusing on those things a lot more. So I appreciate you for writing the book from that space because it sounded like it brought you some healing as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you seem pretty comfortable around folks. Every time you come around folks, you just fall right in line, like you've been knowing them all your life. And I don't know. I have to I have to think that played a part of your success in community policing, right?
Yeah.
Um, how do what happens when you got a guy who was uh, left Nebraska at 18, went in the military, got out the military, is put in a community as a police officer with a gun, and he doesn't have those skills that you have. What about that guy?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that because I do. I feel like I do have that innate desire to be a people person. Some people are, some people aren't, but I definitely am very social. But one of the things that's really important is when you bring people in, particularly into policing, there's a lot of vetting that goes on about who. I know there's a lot of criticisms about who are police officers, but I would tell you there is a lot of vetting, a lot more than you'll see in any other career field, I would think. There's background checks, there's all the criminal history and other checks that you do. They talk to people, they try to figure out how you were brought up, how you were raised, what your thoughts are. Not political thoughts, but just your humanism, those
Hmm.
types of things. And so they do a lot of vetting on the front end. And even with that, we still get things that go awry. But I think it's really important that the vetting is important as well as the training, and part of the training really has been certainly since the last 10 years or so, really focused on releasing your biases. And they don't take the training anymore as coming in and pointing fingers at anybody. They really make it self-reflective so that you can understand what are my biases, because we know everybody has them.
Mm.
And they start their class with saying that. So we want you to know what yours are and work through that so that it doesn't manifest itself in disproportionate action in the field. You
Right,
know
right,
what I
right.
mean? And so we spend a lot of time and training on that. And I think the current chief in Seattle is even bringing the officers in to do a pre-academy class. So before you even go to the academy, they want to bring them in, get them in a community, get them working at the shelters and other places, so they know the people before they even go to the academy. And then they go to the academy, and then they come back and they do another set. Then they go through the training and go out into the field. And I think that's really important. So it can create a level of understanding and cohesiveness and humanize people to one another when
Yeah,
they may not have had that experience.
that's good. That could because that is community policing. I've
Sure.
never they used to call it so many different things over time. I remember when I was little, they used to have officer friendly would come into
Yeah.
school with the coloring books. And policing was just such an honorable job back then.
Hmm.
And it's just taken such a public relations hit. But for me, knowing officers like yourself and the chief here, uh, not just to throw that out there, but I have relationships with you all, and I've heard you all at one time or another, especially with the chiefs, admit that I may have gotten it wrong, and
Right.
that was important for me as a citizen, to hear a law enforcement officer say that. It did a little something for my PTSD. So I
Yeah.
just thank you for your humanness. I wanted to ask you about your book, uh, and why did you feel it was necessary to have a tactical debrief at the end of every chapter?
Yeah, it was really funny because the whole premise was one, it was cathartic, of course, to write down some of these things. I didn't write my whole life story, but some of the lessons that I've learned over time, and certainly how I was able to implement those lessons during a prolonged time of crisis, if you will, like 9 months of crisis.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to share that with folks because I think there's something people can glean from my experiences, even if they're not the same. We all have dealt with, you've even said it yourself, our own trauma, our own issues, our own, what we have to do to work through critical times, how we can learn from one another. And I talk a lot about mentoring and sponsoring and supporting each other and all those things as well. So I thought that there was a lessons that could be learned there, but I wanted to give at the very end a little bit of space for the reader to see, well, how would this work in my life? How would I
Mm.
approach this thing? What might I do the same or differently that would make me, a good leader in the situation, or even a better leader. I certainly didn't think I had the answers to everything, so I posed those questions as a debrief at the end. And really, as a law enforcement person, when I was in law enforcement, almost every incident or critical incident, we encourage a debrief. What went well? What didn't go well? What did we learn? What can we apply to future things? And so it kind of was in concert with the way we actually are supposed to do policing. So I thought that was something I really wanted to have in there.
Yeah, well, that kind of ties it in a little bit better for me. I thought I was along that path, but I wanted to make sure. The humanness of the book. you know, your community relationships again and the humanness in that, it seems like that was a book to the community. You know what I'm saying? It didn't come
Yeah.
off as like we looking for a #1 New York Times bestseller. It just seems like it was a community policing book to the community from the community police, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
If that makes
Listen,
any
I wouldn't
sense.
be hurt, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if it became a New York Times bestseller, don't get me wrong. I would take that. But, certainly it was for those, particularly for those in Seattle, but really around the country who watched all of the things that were happening in Seattle. I will go to really almost to any area in the country and people will remember and talk about what was going on in Seattle in 2020. So really, the whole nation's eyes really were on us in many ways.
Well,
I haven't. Yeah, go ahead.
my pops is 81, and I told him you were coming on, and he definitely remembers you. We talked about that a lot, and even in this community that I'm in, I don't think we I was proud personally. I'll just speak for me. I was proud when you stepped away. Because you didn't owe us that. You didn't owe us that after all you had given us. And when I say us, I'm just speaking from a place of a community member, even though I don't live in
Yeah.
Seattle. So thank you for that. Can you talk a little bit about and this only struck me because it happened in Chicago. You talked about Chief O'Toole taking you to this convention, and
Yes.
then she was supposed to speak, and at the last minute she dropped it on you and said you had to do it.
Right.
Talk about that and the pride you felt with that. And did you feel like you were ready? Because you sound like you were pretty nervous.
I was nervous. Oh my goodness, I was very nervous. Here's the thing, and one of the things I talk about in the book, Black and Blue Leadership Lessons on Breaking Barriers and Racial Reconciliation, is the aspect of having mentors, sponsors, and allies. And I give examples of each of those things and how they've helped me personally to grow and to learn, and also how I've been able to pay it forward to others, but I had real specific examples. And one was about Chief O'Toole, who was recognized, at least in the policing profession, as, an expert, pretty iconic, particularly for women. She worked on the peace process in Ireland. She was the head of the Massachusetts State Patrol, as well as the first female commissioner in Boston. So she broke a lot of barriers, really was a trailblazer. Now she's my boss, and I held her in high regard, and she was very much helping me along, mentoring, and I was learning a lot from her. We had this meeting, and she decides, and she tells me that she's got to take a phone call, and I have to sit in for her. And I was very nervous. It was a meeting of police chiefs from all across the country, major city chiefs, which means that chiefs that are in cities that are over 500,000 in population, and talking about current issues. And here I was, this new deputy chief, and I'm like, I don't want to sit at the table with all these folks, but I did. And you know what, Darryl, I was prepared. There really wasn't anything they could talk about that I hadn't had some knowledge about just in my role and in my many years in policing, so I became pretty comfortable. But that was, I know for a fact, Chief O'Toole giving me an opportunity to network, and she believed in me and a chance to really shine and with her peers and my peers. She certainly didn't need it. She was well regarded
Yeah.
no matter what. And to this day, I don't think she even had a phone call. I think she just told me that because I was like, who schedules a phone call? I thought it was the middle of a meeting. And you just gonna take a phone call right now? So I think it really was her sort of setting me up and to get up there and do it.
Yeah, I think that's the sweetness of equity right there. When people talk about equity and equality, that's a sweet example of it. I have a couple of those in my life. People have just placed me in a position to succeed, and I didn't even realize that what they were doing. So,
Yeah.
that struck me as profound. That's nice. So what's next? I know
That
you.
is a great question. I get asked that occasionally, and I've left the policing as a chief, and then I went to a private security company, and then now I'm working at a technology company for global risk security operations. But I don't know yet, right? I love my job, like I'm working, and I like doing the volunteer work, but I feel like I still have more gas in the tank, if you will. So I'm not sure where that's going to take me. And I'm okay with that for right now. Just, figuring out as
Well,
I go along where
I,
I fit in best.
I did write something down about some teaching going on here. So, I'm always trying to make something happen. Maybe we could get some teaching going on around these parts of the state.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be in touch with you about that. I want to give a shout out to everyone about this book. If you can see it, Carmen Best, Black in Blue, Lessons on Leadership, Breaking Barriers, and Racial Reconciliation. Miss Best, it was a pleasure. I appreciate knowing you. You've added some value to my life, not because of your title, but just because of your friendship and your down-to-earth personality. You've also helped with my PTSD as it pertains to law enforcement. To be honest with you, I never was comfortable around them too much until after I started talking to you and Chief. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Darryl. It really is a pleasure. I enjoyed chatting with you.
All right, see you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye. Hey, y'all, welcome to the Post Prison Podcast. I'm your guy, businessman and entrepreneur, Darryl Riley. Joining me today is my sister, my ride or die friend, Miss Cynthia Brady. Today is February 12th, 2023, Super Bowl Sunday. And we have come to the end of season 1 of the Post Prison Podcast. And what you just watched was my impromptu interview with our last guest, former Seattle Police Chief, Miss Carmen Best. And we had a couple substantive discussions about where she's at, where she was during the time that went on. And I thought that was very warm and informative. We ended the interview just by saying goodbye because I didn't want to end the final interview without having Miss Cynthia join me to say goodbye to everybody and talk about what's next. So we're at that space today. I will say to anybody that might have a question about why I didn't ask Chief Carmen Best about the killings of the young man by the police officers. It's because I felt it paramount that I protect her. We talked offline, and that sister was very distraught about that situation. And I felt as having her on as a guest, I didn't want to set her up to display anything negatively on herself or the police department about how she felt about that, because she's not in charge today. So just to anybody who might be wondering about her position on Tyreek Nichols, she's heartbroken as a woman of color. So I just wanted to say that for the record. Miss Cynthia, we at the end now.
We did it.
Yeah, tell me when we first got started and first talked about it, what's different about how it turned out as opposed to what you thought it would be?
Well, I was way out of my comfort zone. I never let people video me or any of that type of stuff. And when you asked me, I was like, only reason why I really said yes is because, Darryl, you've never really steered me wrong when it comes to certain situations. And you've always been the type of person that you don't tell me what I need to hear. You tell me, you don't tell me what I want to hear. You tell me what I need to hear. And that's, to me, that's out of love. You know what I'm saying? And holding me accountable, for my actions or whatever. Because we've had little incidents here and there where I've had to come and apologize to you because I understood how you felt and I was out of pocket. And I called myself out on that, but I've always got nothing but love from you. So I said, yeah, let me do this. And then you had explained to me how you wanted to be able to reach out to other people and help people to really see what was going on, that we're still in our mentality, we're still stuck in many ways in certain areas of our lives. And that's keeping us crippled and keeping us from growing. And so hearing people's stories and where they're at today and how it's so different from their past life and how they had to crawl out, climb out, or claw their way out or whatever was very profound. And it even opened up doors where other people is even asking me, when you guys gonna have me on? When you gonna have me on? And I said, well, what you want to talk about? And they said, my story. And so I think it's important that people be able to tell their stories and be able to help somebody else out there by telling their story, what they've been through, where they're at today, how they got there. And for us to relate more to this time around, the next time around, is to be able to have resources at the end, to be able to say, you can call this person, or you can call that person, or you can reach out to this organization and get the help you need in this area, or whatever, is to have those resources available at the end of these podcasts.
Well, yeah, why we started to everybody that's listening, why we started, we started because we felt we had something to say that could be impactful and that can provide healing in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the approach that we had. We know a lot of people already, so it wasn't about any popularity or contest. And that's probably why we're in this season 1, because we don't want to just be up here showing up to talk. We want to have substantive conversations, and we want to keep our community engaged because it's important to us. We got started. Our first episode was the week before Thanksgiving, I think it was November 20th. And we had Brother Darryl Dogs on, set the pace for us, set the bar for us. After that brother was on, we knew that we had to definitely continue at that pace. We couldn't go below that bar. Cynthia, my next question to you is, what lessons have you learned over these last 12 weeks?
One of the main things I've learned is that community is important, period. And that we all need to be involved in our community, helping and supporting one another and supporting each organization. We're all trying to do the same thing, is to be able to help people to see that they can have a better life and that they can be, get around this systemic racism and all the other things that keep us bound. And also another thing that I learned that it's not just people that have been through things that is feel that community is important, that have a past, but there's people that is working in all different sectors of law enforcement, judicial systems, legislative, and all different walks of life, that wants to be a part of helping build this community, helping people to see that we're still have a long way to go, and that it's possible with a village.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't really, to be honest with you, I didn't actually have the frame of mind to envision what exactly we were doing at the time. I just knew we had something to offer. I knew what you just described for me is people that have a story to tell are usually people that survive something.
Yeah.
And if you survive something, you are no longer a victim to it. So I think that non-victimhood approach, having the strength and the courage and the fortitude to tell your story, is what makes it impactful. But once you become a survivor, you got to be careful not to take a step back into victim. And that comes by holding yourself accountable and holding the people that you love accountable. And I think you and I do that. It's so easy and so frequently to disagree with you now or tell you how I see it differently, because I know you're gonna chew on it. You're gonna say, "Well, this brother, I know this brother love me. Let me take this into consider. At least take a look at it, right? Instead of being dismissive because you don't like what I said. Well, that's
No, but that's how we learn. We're supposed to take that and critically think about it, and not just take what someone else has said or somebody else has taught us or whatever, and not really look at it. I have a tendency that even when I'm in training sessions, in church, whatever, when somebody says something to me, I have a tendency to be looking up stuff, like scrolling, looking up stuff to see if it matches up or if it lines up, because A person can say one thing, like just say we take a scripture. A person can take a scripture and it relates to that person's life in one manner, where in the other person's life, it might relate to something totally different. So I'm careful to do research and dig in and all that. And I know a lot of that has to do with me going back to school and stuff, but I feel like I'm a lifetime learner. I like the rest of my life, I'll be learning.
Yeah, we try to dissect the truth and find out what it means to us. You know, we talked about in our opening how we would look at all types of prisons, like situationships and relationships, and I think we've succeeded in doing that. I guess the next rhetorical question and the last question before we end our season 1 is, what's next for us, Cynthia? Tell me one or two things that you would like to see us do in the next season.
I'd like to see us talk and interview people that are still going through some things. They're still struggling and going through some things with judicial system, with CPS, with any kind of entity that is impacting their life in a negative way, and they don't have a voice to be able to talk about the things that they're going through, and they're being told one thing, but there's always something else out there. And if somebody can hear it, they can always relate and then get back in touch with us and let us know, no, that's wrong. You can call these people and get this taken care of or whatever. And also, I'd like to see more people interact, like say things like, if you don't agree with something, put it in there. I don't agree with that, you know, and this is my opinion on that. More feedback from the people that are watching these videos and seeing where they relate to or where their mindset is. Don't just agree with us. Also, you know, make us think about some things. And then the third thing is like I said, putting together resources that at the end we can say, here's some resources, or here is where we got this information from, and you can go look it up.
Yeah, and I, you know, resource base is key, and you say, like, that's powerful. You said people who are currently going through things, and I want to make it clear, it's our goal not to overlap in some other folks who might be having discussions as it pertains to resources, but we're moving in a different lane, you know, and we're staying in our lane. Let me just say that for the record. Well, Cynthia, I'm really I got so many ideas about what's next.
I know you do. That brain just be going.
Yeah, I mean, I refuse to create a ceiling for myself in anything that I'm involved in.
I hear you. I hear you.
And I find the most difficult part for me, most of the people that I deal with as people of color, they tend to have a limit on what they think we can do. You know what I'm saying? And the first thing you hear is, "Oh, we can't do that."
Yeah, I've been there. And, and I thank God that I'm coming out of that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That I'm not allowing what other people limitations are, or what people think my limitation is, to affect me in any type of way. I believe that all things is possible.
All right now. Well, to everybody who's been joining us over the last several months, man, we really appreciate y'all. We, like Cynthia said, a lot of you all reach out to us in person or by text. We'd actually, if you don't mind, comment on the post or comment on the video and let us know what you think, but let us know what you'd like to see us do better. I know a couple people have told me I need to stop saying and a lot more. So I want to work on that. I'm not a professional. I'm just trying to be better and hold myself accountable every day.
And I want to say something too, that I appreciate everyone that agreed to do the interviews and came on and told their stories. I appreciate each and every one of you. I really do, because for some people it's not that easy, and it wasn't that easy for me to be on film and all that stuff, but it's getting easier and easier. I guess one of the things that we have to do is just come with the truth and come with your heart, come with your truth, you know, and come with your heart.
you know, and I think that I have so many questions that I want to run through you and Carmen best together. I'm really a little sad that you didn't make it, but you guys are kind of the same personality. You kind of just blend in where you go. And, you know, I just want to say thank you to you and all the guests as well. You know, I called in a lot of people to talk about a lot of different things, and it was new for all of us. But I think we kept it together, man. And I'm proud of what we've done. And I want to give a shout out to some people on my team and in my life. You know, the background folks, Miss Galloway, Miss Rebecca Lapointe from my team, and you know, of course, Miss Rourke and all the rest of you guys who shared and gave us a kind word. So thank you. We're gonna be looking forward to season 2. Sometime probably around mid-April. We'll definitely be posting a lot of reels and repeating a lot of the videos that we shared. So we just thank you. Continue to like, subscribe, share, reach out to us on postprisonpodcast@gmail.com. And until the next time, peace. And
Wait
God
a minute,
bless.
wait, before you go,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
I want to say one thing. It's ironic, we didn't plan this. We both got on brown. He got his unk on his shirt and I got him on my earrings. And we did
Yes.
not plan this. Now you tell me how the powers work.
Yeah, shout out to my guy, Frank Jackson, out of Chicago with the Heaven Inspired Me hoodie. And that unk is something different. If you don't know what's to it, that's where the vibrations and the frequency come from. I suggest you tap into that.
Plan this.
Yeah, I'm glad you stopped me, man. We needed to get that in on the end. Much love and respect to you, Sin. I know I'll see you soon.
Love you too, my brother.
To the rest of you all, this is probably the first time that everybody got to root for the black quarterback in the Super Bowl. Peace.
Every morning I wake up, all I know is get it. The OGs always told me what I start, I gotta finish. So I push it to the limit, so I can be the greatest. So I can look my family in their eyes and say we made it. Don't let life hand you nothing, you just gotta go take it. Always keep it 100, don't ever let me catch you faking. Keep a close eye on your circle,